大家好，今天分享的是稍早前的一段视频。2025年6月，在阿拉伯战略论坛，高志凯与美国驻丹麦前大使卡拉桑兹关于自由贸易的一场激烈的辩论。视频中我们可以看出这位前大使对中国有着高高在上的优越感，充满着无法理解的美式傲慢与偏见。这不是一场互相尊重的对话与讨论，而是一场毫无证据的情况下肆意抹黑、口诛笔伐的口水战。高志凯教授也毫无留情地进行了激烈的反击。这个过程非常精彩，也是高志凯教授在外交场合上非常经典的一幕。现在分享给大家。
So let's start right with the title. And Ambassador, let me begin with you. Are the rules of the game, are the rules of global trade changing? Is free trade dead?
Well, I think certainly the days of globalization as we knew it are over. And it doesn't mean that globalization is over, just as we knew it. And certainly there's never been free trade, right? President Trump is looking for fair trade. But free trade was enforced by the U.S. military and the U.S. Navy, keeping the open seas and allowing every country around the world to be able to trade in a peaceful manner. Now, we do have some aggressors trying to challenge that today. You look at the Suez Canal, you look at some of the islands in the South China Sea and regions near China. So there are attempts to change the open seas, but as far as free trade goes, it's never really been free, and we would like to have fair trade.
Thank you very much. Victor, I think one thing we can all agree on is that the Trump administration moves quickly. If you'd asked me just a couple of days ago, I would have said, we might need a ring for the two of you to fight out this discussion. But today, I don't know, right? We are just 3 hours away from an announcement, or the beginning rather, of the U.S.-China tariff truce, as it is being called. It went into effect at 8 a.m. Dubai time today. That has the U.S. lowering its maximum tariff rate on Chinese imports from 145% to 30%, and China reducing its 125% tariff on American goods to 10%. So, Victor, are we still in a trade war, or does the truce signify that this is just a trade tiff, a quarrel amongst friends where maybe somebody gets some sand thrown at them in the sandbox, but everyone emerges relatively unscathed?
Thank you very much, Ryan. First of all, it's a great pleasure, great honor for me to be here with all the excellencies, majesties, all the friends, etc. Secondly, I think the great achievements of Dubai and UAE as a whole over the past several decades, against all the odds, are real reflection of the wisdom and the courage of the people of UAE and of Dubai in particular. But in today's context, allow me to mention this is a triumph and success and victory of free trade. Now, someone in the United States wrote a book called No Trade is Free. Let me say, that person has a sick mind. There are demons in his mind preying on him. I think free trade is good. Free trade liberates everyone. Free trade lifts us. So, the third point I want to say, that I want to congratulate the organizers of this forum, because no one can pick the timing better than the organizers, because we are gathered here on the eve of a very important presidential visit by Donald Trump and his big delegation. So if I have one piece of advice for President Trump, I want to use this opportunity to say, President Trump, don't mess around with free trade. Give free trade a chance. Let's all promote free trade. Fair trade? Well, it depends on how you define fairness. I think real free trade is fair. And free trade should not be done by any country holding a gun at your head and say, that's fairness for me. Maybe that's not fairness for you. Now, coming back to your question, I think what happened in Geneva is truly remarkable, but let me speculate. I will not be surprised if we say, first thing, Saturday morning, the Chinese side told the American counterparts that if you want to talk, if you want to negotiate, the door is open, I want to talk. But if you want to fight the trade war, I will fight the trade war with you till the very end. Now the Chinese sometimes are very ambiguous, not very clear. Let me define what's the end means for China and the United States. I think China has presented itself very clearly. The very end for this round of the trade war means winding down to zero for two-way trade between China and the United States. Because what the United States is doing is literally an attempted embargo of Chinese export to the United States, yanking up the tariff rate to 145% or even higher. China went it up to 125%. Now, if the tariff remain at that high rate, there will be no more trade between China and the United States. But possibly President Trump's indulgence was that I want to embargo Chinese export to the United States, but I want to make sure that for the American export to China, there will be a free walk. Let me tell you, there is no free lunch like that. If you want to embargo Chinese trade to the United States, all American products sold to China will be embargoed. So zero trade between China and the United States. Does China want that? Absolutely not. China does not want to do that. China wants to do good trade with the United States. Now, the second thing is
China can't afford to do that.
Yeah, the second thing is that I think the Secretary of Treasury, the trade representative, faced with that kind of ultimatum. If you want to mess around with free trade, you get complete embargo, mutual way between China and the United States. I think what happened is a reflection of reason, rationality, and wisdom. And I hope whatever they agreed in Geneva will be fleshed out in the coming 90 days. And by the end of that, both China and the United States will win, the rest of the world will win, and with the blessing of President Trump, free trade will be given a better chance. The success of Dubai is a success of free trade. Let's promote and protect free trade.
Ambassador Sands, I had a different question, but I cannot not let you respond to that, so please do.
Thank you so much. So my colleague talked about someone holding a gun to the head. Well, holding the gun to the head
Ambassador.
is what I think you can
This
hear
is not
me.
a gun, this is a mic.
Yes, but the CCP holds the gun to the head of every American company that comes into China to do business there. Every single one. They do forced technology transfer. Then their companies replicate what American companies' IP brings, and then they make it cheaper, and then they put the American company out of business or at a financial disadvantage. They do it every time. In fact, they steal, the Chinese companies steal $500 billion a year, $500 billion a year of IP from the US. They stole the F-35 plans. They force their students to spy in American universities. There's a scandal unraveling right now at Stanford University, where they go especially to students working on robotics and AI. So the theft and gangster behavior of the CCP, and I will say the people of China deserve better leadership. I have a nice colleague next to me. We want trade with China, but the fact is we want China to behave like a normal nation, and they don't. Fair trade requires countries that we work with to behave in the normal rules of the road. Just like the UAE has been so successful because you base your foundations on law and you behave like a normal country and you treat your customers well. That's how you've thrived and grown. I've just come from talking about the new Golden Road. It's the Middle East, Europe, India corridor, the IMEC. And this is a very exciting development that the UAE, it's just right up your alley. It will bring more prosperity to the UAE. Dubai will benefit, Jeddah will benefit as goods come from India through the Middle East, bypassing the Suez Canal, so water, land, water, to Trieste. And it benefits the whole region. Energy will flow south. and goods and intellectual property will flow in both directions. So it's an exciting time for more trade, more fair trade between nations that treat each other well. We have about 4-to-1 trade deficit with China. We want trade with China, but we want China to behave like a normal nation. So we can use all kinds of, sort of bombastic language, that's okay. But the fact is we do want to have a good relationship with every nation, all of us treating the rules of the road so that we have fair trade and we don't take advantage.
Victor is going to respond to that, but we're going to keep this limited just so that it doesn't turn into a debate, because I'm pretty sure we could sit here and hear this conversation until President Trump arrives tomorrow.
Indeed. So the IMEC is, President Trump is so excited about it, he calls it the new golden road. He signed an executive order in February of this year. There are 8 signatory countries. It's India, it's UAE, Saudi Arabia, US, EU, Germany, France, and Italy. And so we're very excited about this. President Trump and his administration are talking about it, so it is a priority, and I'm really excited about the developments to come.
Thank you very much. With due respect to Her Excellency, the Ambassador, I'm so happy the Ambassador was not in Geneva for the trade talk. And I'm so happy that the United States is blessed with people with more rationality, like the Secretary of Treasury and the Trade Representative, Mr.
Who's a dear friend, yes. And
Yes, of course. I'm so happy that your friends have greater rationality and reason. Now, the third thing is that the ambassador talked about stealth of intellectual property. Name any one country in the world of today or in human history which stole RPR from other countries and built the greatest country in that period. None. Stealing intellectual property will not make you really rich. Now, the third thing, allow me to use this opportunity to say one thing. After the air war between India and Pakistan, you probably have read about it. President Trump, couple of months ago, announced the F-47, the most advanced plane. Now, China has 2 versions of that. It's already in production. So, allow me to make one thing on this very important forum. The Chinese technology are real cutting edge. It's not achieved by stealing anyone's intellectual property rights. It's built by the Chinese wisdom. Thousands of years of wisdom accumulated till today. So don't talk to me about China stealing other countries' technologies, because you simply don't have the technologies we have. Look at the fighter J-10C used by Pakistanis. They are better than anyone produced in Europe or in the United States.
Thank you very much. So we're going to move on because we have a lot of ground to cover. And actually, these two are very good friends.
We are always good friends.
And you were, Ambassador, you were referring to the trade war. You said it should be rebranded, what we are in this truce period now, as what?
A détente.
A détente. So we are in the period of détente. And so I think one question that is on everyone's mind is, as we have this bifurcation of trade relations perhaps taking shape in the world, where you have China on the one hand, maybe the global south together with China or as a separate entity, and the United States, to what extent do you see, as observers of trade, do you see these camps forcing their members to choose between these respective groups? In other words, to what extent are we about to see a world where trade becomes more exclusive to certain clubs?
You want me to start? Sure. Well, I first want to just compliment, I heard President Trump yesterday talk about how he's preparing perhaps to sell about a million of these high chips, the NVIDIA chips, to UAE for your AI, which is really, really exciting. I think about 500,000 will be the highest level. So I think that that's a working development. And we saw yesterday the relationship of the Saudi Crown Prince and President Trump, and the announcement of a future $1 trillion and a now committed $600 billion investment by Saudi. So President Trump's America First and working to re-level investment and trade is really bringing success to the U.S., but it's going to raise all the economies around the world. And I'm excited about this, and I don't believe that we have to choose between trading with the U.S. and trading with China. I think we want more trade with everyone. We want countries not to take advantage of the sort of the U.S. For instance, we have rule of law. China has rule by law. We have courts that hear both sides of an argument, and we've been taken advantage in the past by Chinese companies coming in and using our courts against us, where American companies don't have recourse in China. There's no accounting that you can actually count on from any Chinese company. And you look and see some of them are listed on the U.S. Stock Exchange, but you can't count on the accounting that you see because the numbers are all cooked. So we'd like to see more transparency and honesty in reporting so that we can do investments in China and have fair treatment, but also have transparency. So I think that we want trade, but we want China, which is a very important trading partner of most countries around the world. And when I go to South America, most countries there, the #1 trading partner is China. And so we don't want these countries to be abused, including the United States. So every country should be able to put their needs first, and China should behave like a normal country. And that's about what I'll say to that. But we want trade, of course. We have a trade deficit of about 4 to 1, and so we'd like to see that change, and that's also more fair.
Allow me to mention the real choice in the world of today is not between China and the United States. The real choice is whether the United States is doing the right thing or the wrong thing. If the United States is doing the right thing, be my guest, follow the leadership of the United States. If the United States is doing the wrong thing, you'll be losing your mind if you follow the leadership. Likewise, it's the same thing for China. You need to decide whether China is doing the right thing or the wrong thing. If China is doing the right thing, why don't you want to work with China? If China is doing the wrong thing, why do you want to follow the leadership of China? So the real choice is your brain. You need to use your brain and use your own judgment to come up with which one you want to work with. Now the second thing, philosophically speaking, MAGA, Make America Great Again, or America First are fine on the condition that you don't want to make UAE or Dubai the last. You do not want to make China the last. You can make your great or great again or the triple, etc. That's fine. But don't make America great at the expense of UAE or the Arab world or China. China will never buy that story. You want to make yourself great? You want to be #1? Fine. But China also wants to be #1. All countries want to be advanced. We do not want to be relegated to the last echelon in the hierarchy. So I think you really need to come up with a more balanced view of the world. The world of today is a world of multilateralism. No single country should be able in the position to dictate to others, especially by holding a gun at your head. Listen to me, follow me. My version of the truth is the only truth, and you need to give up your faith and follow me blindly. That's not going to work. It will never work with China, a country with 5,000 years of history. Most likely it will never work with the Arab world too.
Victor, before we go on, I just want to give you 30 seconds, because we've ventured into the Gulf and what all of this means for the Gulf. In 30 seconds, what is China's value proposition to the Gulf? And what would you say to perhaps some Gulf leaders, trade with China is already booming, that are concerned that perhaps there's an overdependence or might be an overdependence on China?
Very briefly, China views the Arab world completely as an equal. China fully respects every member of the Gulf League and all the Arab countries in the Middle East, in the North America. I think this kind of faith in the Arab world should be reflected in the good relations between China and Pakistan. China is a staunch ally of Pakistan, as demonstrated again in the recent war with India. Again, China is the staunchest supporter of the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people. Let me mention this. China fully supports the Palestinian people, even though the international circumstances are very much against the legitimate interest of the
Palestinian people. Using these two examples, China-Pakistani, China-Palestinian relations, I hope the Arab friends and brothers and sisters can see that China is a real friend of the Arab people. We work together on equal basis as brothers and sisters, and we never dictate to the Arab country. We always believe your faith, your value are equally good as my faith, and I have no reason and justification to dictate to you that follow my faith, follow my values. Thank you.
That was a bit longer than 30 seconds. In any case, Ambassador.
Yeah, so my colleague keeps putting a gun to someone's head. I'm not sure what that's about, but it seems to be a favorite sort of reflex. I will say this, President Trump puts Americans first, just like your leader puts your country first, and every country's leader should. It's America first, but not America alone. We need our friends and allies. We want our trading partners. And as far as President Trump or any American leader in our relationship with the region, of course there's respect. We are brothers. Even if I'm a woman, I can say that. It's a brotherhood. And there is, however, certain countries that are not behaving according to accepted norms. And I will just say Iran is one of them. President Trump is back to maximum pressure against the Iranian mullahs, knowing that the Iranian people, educated, young, ambitious, smart, they want opportunity, just like the people here, the young people in the UAE. And so he's back to pressing so that we get a better behavior out of Iran, so that they can't afford to fund their proxies, which still goes on today. So we're working, President Trump and his administration, working to get better behavior out of the countries that fall outside of the norms of mankind or humankind treating each other well. So we love trade, we love good relationships with every country. President Trump can pick up the phone and speak with Sharm el-Sheikh, he can pick up the phone and speak with world leaders because it's important to have that high-level discussion. But as a matter of fact, Iran is an outlier, and we do see that China is helping to fund this war in Ukraine. If China withdrew their funding from Russia, the war would end today.
Okay, so we've touched on the Gulf just briefly. Now we need to go a little bit more broadly. Victor, first question to you. Biggest beneficiary and biggest loser from the current trade environment, the current trade situation we're in outside of the Gulf? What region is the biggest gainer and what region is the biggest loser?
I think President Trump's global tariff war or the trade war will make all of us losers, and it will be a heavy blow to free trade. Therefore, I hope President Trump and his team will gradually recover some rationality and wisdom, and we'll realize that free trade is not your enemy. Free trade actually made what the United States is today, because the United States for many years, more than 100 years, preached about free trade, holding the banner of free trade. Now, if the United States wants to abandon the banner of the free trade, China will be very happy to hold the banner of free trade, not only for China's purpose, but for mankind. Therefore, I think all of us, the Arab countries included, we all need to defend the free trade. It's not just for one country, it's for everyone. It's for mankind as a whole. Free trade is the right thing. The free trade should be defended at any cost.
Okay, so we're all losers. Ambassador Sands?
No, we're all winners.
And interestingly, we hear so much, acrimony might not be the right word, but debate between the two of you about the U.S.-China relationship, and yet we just heard the President of the United States yesterday talk about how actually he sees a much more challenging situation in resetting the trade relationship with Europe.
Yes, it's true. It's true. The EU is so protectionist. They have tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers on American goods. Even when our goods are better, they keep them out. And it's really been an unfair situation for American manufacturers. And as a matter of fact, part of President Trump's work to have fair trade is because the US government, state level and federal level, incentivized companies to send their manufacturing offshore, largely to Asia and then ultimately to China. And what happened is our manufacturing base hollowed out over the decades. We have lost the ability to make so many things. Just to give a few examples, for national security purposes, a country has to be able to make pharmaceutical precursors. Because in a conflict, and we saw this during COVID, where the leadership in the CCP said, maybe we won't send you those pharmaceutical precursors to the US because they weren't happy with what we were doing during COVID. Or we have to have rare earth minerals for our, not just cell phones and technology, but our defense equipment. And China has now threatened, well, we won't send you certain rare earth elements. So we have to be able to secure those. Every country must, for their own defense, if they are a great power, be able to make pharmaceutical precursors, have the mining and the processing for rare earth elements, but also make things, make steel, aluminum, the things that you need in a conflict. If you offshore those, especially to an adversary, the components even of your military equipment, you're going to be in trouble if there is a conflict. Now, there may be a gray zone conflict that's not in a hot war, but more like the IP theft and the spying, the propaganda, other kinds of things. But as a matter of fact, to be a great power, you have to prepare for a conflict. And so that's the kind of effort that President Trump is doing to secure the United States. But every power, every great power, must do the same.
All right, I want to start taking questions in just 1 minute, but 30 seconds, Ambassador Sands, one final question. So we are 90 days to the end of this truce, with the truce, the trade truce just began today, but we are 538 days from the midterm elections. How do you see things changing? Obviously, the Trump administration may not have such a free hand in 538 days in determining foreign policy and trade. So could everything we're discussing now go away in less than 2 years?
I can't predict and speculate what's going to happen. There could be a change in power. But as a matter of fact, President Trump, even in 2019, so he had lost the House, had the best economy in the history of the country. President Trump will go down in history as one of the greatest presidents in the United States history, probably after George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, because of what he's done for the American people, for securing us and increasing our economy. So we will have an economy that's humming on all cylinders. I know it will benefit the UAE because of that, because we are great partners. But as a matter of fact, President Trump and his administration are putting all the American people first. And so whether or not we lose the House in the midterms, I believe that he'll continue to do the work that he's doing, and nothing will change except he'll have to do more executive orders and pass less legislation in the House.
When I learned that the ambassador was the former US ambassador to Denmark, I think there will be a lot of questions about why Denmark. Denmark, the good old nature of Denmark. Why should the United States become hostile against Denmark? Why should the United States have an interest in acquiring Greenland, which now is kind of territory or part of Denmark? Now, there is one difference between China and the United States for your benefit. China is always concerned that if we do not have enough friends. It seems the United States is always concerned if they do not have enough enemies. So they now view Denmark in a strange way. They view good nature, the Canadians, in a strange way. They now declare Europe is worse than China. China is not that bad, and Europe is not that worse. So I would say the sanity of Washington need really be brought back. And voters in the United States normally vote with their feet. So beware of the midterm. Beware if the Republicans become lame ducked next year, and beware of the general election in 2028. So do good for the American people by embracing free trade rather than throw a wedge into free trade.
And just the 15-second question from me, and we have a question in the back of the room. Is that China's plan to wait out until the midterm elections?
The domestic election in the United States has nothing to do with China. China at best is an observer. We just look around.
If I may, so the issue of China in the United States is a bipartisan issue. It's both sides of the aisle understand the challenges and the opportunities with China.
Please, sir, your question.
Listening to the two of you, I'm very struck by the fact that the world's most valuable company was built on British design, American technology and Chinese manufacturing. Shouldn't you be getting on better?
We're getting on so well.
Absolutely. I think you should be given a chance to speak to President Trump tomorrow.
They're much more civil when it's one-on-one. No, I'm just kidding. Please, sir, your question.
Thank you.
I'll bring you the microphone.
Thank you. Tariq Masood, Harvard University. Dr. Gao, I really appreciated your comments as a fellow Yale graduate. If China was the great repository of wisdom and innovation that you make it out to be, then how come our universities are the ones with thousands of Chinese students and thousands more banging on the doors? Why is it that American higher education is the one area where we have a massive trade surplus with you? And then I would say to Ambassador Sands, I think you spoke very eloquently and forcefully defending the American position. The prior guest, Sultan bin Sulayem, is a graduate of Temple University. And if that is not one of the greatest demonstrations of one of the foundations of American soft power, I don't know what is. I think this room is probably full of many bright young Emiratis who want to come to the United States to study. So what would you say to somebody who says that in the current season of acrimony that the administration has with higher education, we risk undermining one of the great foundations of American power and one of our great advantages over the Chinese? Thank you.
Is that for me?
It's for both of you, so I cheated.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, the second question was, why is the Trump administration pushing away international students that are a form, in a way, of soft power for the United States?
So by Chinese law, every Chinese citizen has to spy for the CCP. And so they're actually pressuring the family members back in China when the students are studying. There is coercion for this theft. And because of that, we are concerned about the security, especially in our research labs. And we do want foreign students to come. We have the wonderful Fulbright program, IVLP. We hope that if you're a young person, you'll take advantage of that. And we welcome you into the United States to share ideas and to learn about each other's cultures. But you know, the United States helped a very poor country, China, dig itself out of real poverty and ignorance. We taught China, how do you have a modern military? How do you build a modern government? We taught them about how to form a modern intelligence services, and so many things we did with knowledge transfer to China and to the CCP. We built them up thinking that that would be a bulwark against our greatest adversary at the time, Russia. And so China's benefited from American knowledge so much. So it's you know, we hope to go forward in a better relationship in the future. And I will just say again, Chinese people deserve better than they're getting.
Very brief. If I may add a point, after listening to Her Excellency the Ambassador very carefully, I suspect she read about the art of deal, but not art of war.
I read Sun Tzu too, sir.
Talking about wisdom, talking about great contributions to mankind, civilization, etc. I hope, Ambassador, you would have some more time after your great successful property businesses in reading about Chinese history. That's number one. Number two is that, sorry, I went to New Haven rather than Harvard. And normally there is a rule at Yale. We only talk about one university alone. That's Harvard, but mostly in derogative terms. Wow, we always compare. We always believe Yale is the best, and Harvard may be the second best, etc. However, I would say, if you,
I have a Yale degree too.
Yeah, then that makes us buddies. But if you ask any family in China, where do they want to send their kids to? Harvard, or Yale, or Stanford, etc. Now this means that the Chinese parents are really very solid. They want to send their kids to the best universities available in the world. They do not say, oh, Harvard and Yale are in the United States, therefore I do not want to send my kids to Harvard and Yale. However, allow me to mention one point. You must have heard about DeepSeek, the great revolution in artificial intelligence. Almost all the technicians and the professionals working for DeepSeek have been educated domestically in China. They never went to Harvard. They never went to New Haven, to my alumni. So that means China has equally good, if not even better, universities. But we have 1.4 billion people. I think if Harvard opens its door, probably 20%, 50% of the students may be Chinese. The Chinese are very talented, if I may say so. They not only work very hard, they are very, very top brains in the world. And we want to work with the Arab countries to make sure that whatever achievements we can make will be shared. Now, talking about DeepSeek, one word. DeepSeek is the real open AI, whereas open AI is a misnomer. It's closed source AI. That's the AI the Americans want to make. But allow me to declare for your benefit, AI is not American intelligence. AI is artificial intelligence for all of us. No one should have a monopoly of AI for its own purpose.
So unfortunately, though I'm pretty sure this conversation could go on for a very long time, we're going to have to wrap it up there. I will point out that since we're ending the conversation on a debate about American versus Chinese universities and also artificial intelligence, that the Gulf and the UAE is working very hard in developing its own university system, opening up its university system, and one can get a fantastic education right here in the UAE in a whole number of spheres. So we're going to wrap it, but I know that Ambassador Sands, I know Victor, they're not going anywhere. Perhaps it's good for us to all stay around them so they behave themselves a little bit more. And I certainly learned a lot. Obviously, we heard a lot of diametrically opposed views there, but I also heard that both China and the United States are quite prepared, rhetoric aside, to find a middle ground over these 90 days so that we don't have to have perhaps these such emotional and emotive discussions going forward. Please join me in thanking our esteemed guests.